Hi everyone, it's Foxx from eModels here, and welcome to part 10 of our build of the Colonial Viper. Oh, guys, I've built the wrong kit! Haha, I confused you. I haven't got the wrong kit. I've got this kit out for you to have a look at because the next few episodes are going to focus on oil paint weathering. And this Falcon of mine is just an example of what you can do with oil paints. On this kit you've got a mixture of discolouring on the panels to take it away from just a flat grey colour to warmer tones and more mixed and matched tones. You have streaking. I don't know if you can see these. There's streaks all over this ship. Lots of oily bits. There's also dry brushing in these little recessed areas, dry brushing with things like starship filth, engine grease and rust colours, and also dry brushing to make these kind of smoked effects. I'll turn it round so you can see a bit more. Oops, clunking. On the back as well, you've got the streaks on here. It's simply dry brushes of starship filth and engine grease. You've got more streaks, and discoloration. Blaster marks there again, it's just dry brushed, although I did have to drill a hole. So we're going to cover discoloration, just changing the tone of the ship. We're going to cover streaks, making these little bits of grime that fly along the length of the ship. We're going to cover dry brushing for shading and depth and dirt and soot. So I shall take this away. I don't know how long this will take because a lot of the times you'll do it, take you 10 minutes to do it, and then you have to leave that oil coat for 24 hours to dry. So I don't know how many episodes this will take, but I'll try and get through them as quick as I can. But for now, let's get this out of the way and let's get cracking with the Viper. Okay, right, what we're going to be doing, first step, is we're going to discolour the ship in a similar way that we did with the smoke. But we're going to use oil paints this time. All the smoke's now dried. It's very, like I said in the last video, it's a very subtle effect, so you can hardly see any difference at all. You probably can't see it on screen. But what we're going to do 3 stages, like I said, discoloration, then some streaking, and then the dry brushing. So I have my bits here. Now I'm using the 502 Abteilung paints. They're a great range, eModels sell them. Great range of paints. They're a bit different to artist oil paints. I can't really remember I think they're a bit smoother. They're much easier to dry brush. And I absolutely adore them. I do a lot of my weathering now and shading with oil paints and not at all with anything else. Just make sure you can see everything. I've moved the camera so I don't know where anything is. So for this, I've got my little palette lined up with some colours ready. I'm using 502 Abteilung Light Rust Brown. We're using German Grey Highlight, Olive Green, and Copper Oxide Blue Patina. Now what I've done, just a small dot of paint on the palette, because I'm not going to use much. I'm using some low odour thinner. I did have originally, what did I have originally? I had some of the MIG thinner originally, but I've run out now, so this is just from the art store, low odour thinner. And low odour is good because it doesn't stink the house out. So a little pot of that, and I have a collection of brushes. I have 4 normal small brushes and 2 big flat and soft, these are very soft, flat edge brushes. And the process is very simple. Now I hope you're going to be able to see this. So I don't know where anything is, so it's all new to me. I'm trying a different angle. You probably just see my head. It seems to be the way. Okay, so we want to try and change the colour. At this point we don't want to do streaks, we just want to change the colour a little bit. So what I shall do, and I'm going to do the underside first, because then once I've done the underside I can stand it up and do the top side. First thing to do is apply a quick coat of the thinner, just to get, this has all been varnished, I've matte varnished this now so everything's safe under there. quick coat of the odorless turpenoid, or the thinner, however you want to call it. So I'm going to do that first. I'll do a wing first, and I hope you can see this. Slap that on. I'm not being stupidly generous. Oh, I know what I have forgotten. Kitchen roll. There we go. So I've put some on the wing. Now all I'm going to do, the reason I've got 4 brushes so I can kind of keep them one for each colour. And I'm going to be completely random with this. I'm going to do a little bit of the cobalt blue, I think. And I'm going to be really random. I'm going to put some random dots in. Then I'm going to do some German grey highlight. Those will probably make the colour a bit colder. Then I'll put some olive green. Probably too much actually, but there you go. And a little bit of the light rust. And this might look rubbish right now. You're thinking, what are you doing? Well, you're right to find out. Now I take the other brush. This brush has just got thinner on it. Take the other chisel edge brush. Again, it's a soft brush. Doesn't need too much thinner. And all I'm going to do is, in the direction of travel, that. Backwards and forwards. I'll probably put too much thinner on there to start with. And that's it. You probably can't see it, but it's just given it an ever so slight greeny, grey, browny tinge, which is quite bizarre considering I've put greeny, grey, browny colours on there. So I'll just do the same again. I've probably got enough thinner on there still, so I'll just do this section. Middle section. Do it from that panel line so I know where I'm going from. Now I have to remember which brush is which. Bit of the highlight. And you can be completely random. You don't have to think too much about this. Put on as much or as little as you want, depending on how much you want to weather it. A bit more. Oops. Olive green. And the colours you use, again, it's up to you. They'll determine what kind of tint you're putting onto the plastic, onto the model. You could use things like Starship Filth, engine grease, and you get more browner tones. Forgot which. Oh, there we are. Just rip a bit off there. I don't want too much thinner. And I'm just going to again just work this in, backwards and forwards in both directions, following the direction of travel, but both directions backwards and forwards. At this point, I'm not doing streaks. I'm just changing the colour. I'm just making it look dirty, basically. Put too much on, just keep going. And the beauty with oil paints is they take forever to dry. This will be about 24 hours before I can paint on it again. So if you do mess it up, just get a bit of kitchen roll or a cloth and just rub it and it will come off. Let's do the next one. I'll do one more and then I'll get on with it away from camera, and then we'll go to the next set. Stage. Bit of thinner. I hope you can see this. Random dots. Again, you can mix and match the colours however you want. If you want to make a ship look less warm, use lots of blue tones. If you want to make it look warm, use lots of browny tones and warmer tones. There's lots and lots of different colours in the 5A to Abtelling range, so if you want to use them and check them out, go along to eModels and just do a search for that model, for that product, or go in the menu. There's loads of colours. Backwards and forwards, just very gently. I can go edge on if I've got a tickly bit. And that, my friends, is done. It's a very subtle, I don't know if you'll see it, that's the top with nothing on it. And that's the bottom. It's a bit shiny, but that will matte off. That's about as complicated as this gets. I'll just do this front bit while you're on. May as well, mightn't I? No, I'll do that off camera. So that's the first filter. These are called filters. Each layer of this you're going to do is called the filter, because you're adding a filter to the base colour. In photography and graphics, if you take a piece of white and you add a light red filter, it becomes a more warmer, lighter red tone. I'm just adding filters on top of the basic white paint to try and change that. This stage is just to break up that uniform white and give it some variation that's completely random. It's a bit darker there, you can see there's hints of green, there's hints of brown. Just makes it look more used and scrubby. I'll go away and finish this and do the top side as well. When we come back, we will do a slightly different filter. Very similar to this, but slightly different. So, back in a minute. Well, actually back in about 24 hours, because I need to leave it overnight to dry. But for you, back in a moment. And we're back. Okay, the work from yesterday's had time to dry. It's coloured it quite nicely. I doubt you'll be able to tell on camera. I'll bring it up close because I'm going to show you. Let me just get close for it. Okay, this is the colour of it now. Now, if I hold next to it, this engine piece, I don't know if this will show on camera. This bit, the actual goose feathers, they haven't been weathered or anything yet. It's just pure white. So if I hold that up to compare, I hope it comes out on camera. It might not. You can see the difference between these, which are white and no weathering on these, or other than accidental weathering, and these which have now had their work from yesterday. So it's a subtle difference, as I always say, but it's there, you can see. Hints of green, hints of brown, quite cool. Right, today, what we're going to do, well, is the next step. Just check the focus as always. Next step is another very similar phrase. This is going to be almost the same, but slightly different. What we want to do now is the same thing again, using dots of colour to change the colour, but we're going to be doing some very subtle streaking. Now, this isn't actual streaking that I'm going to be doing tomorrow in the next little segment. Best if I just show you. This is going to be the second filter. So I've got three colours. I have 502 Abtai Lung again, dark rust. I have flesh brown, which is medium brown tone. And then I have the absolutely fabulous Starship Filth, which is just the best colour ever. The two colours I use a lot of in weathering are Starship Filth and Engine Grease. Engine Grease is kind of self-explanatory. Starship Filth is just a great kind of dirt, muck, grime colour for anything, but especially for starships, space vehicles. So I'm going to get my little palette. I shall do my three little dots. I only need tiny. I put too much on the palette yesterday, so that's my mistake. Tiny little bits. I should have got this prepared, really. Starship Filth, Flesh Brown, and Dark Rust. Now, I'm not really going to put any rust on the ship as rust. That's not my intention, but it'll just change this colour. It'll basically shift this to a more warmer tone, warmer browny tone. That's the intention, if I can just not drop my brush. So, three brushes again. As before, I've got my little bit of odourless thinner. Some people call it odourless terpenoid. I hope you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go. Right, let's crack on. So, same as yesterday. Fine chisel edge soft brush, dip it in the thinner, get a lot of it off on the tissue, and just give a coating of thinner on there. Then again, as before yesterday, drop your paint brush in the paint, that's always handy. A few dots of Starship Filth. Few dots of that face brown, what it flesh brown, I can't remember what it's called though. Again, using a separate brush for each colour. because I don't know why, I just do. Different thing we're going to do today. I'm not going to dip this brush in thinner. This again is just a soft chisel edge brush. All I'm going to do is simply go up and down in the direction of travel of the ship. And this will give very slight streaking effect. I don't really want that rusty streak there, so I'll leave it there. If it's not moving much, you can use the end of the brush just to break it up a little bit and it'll shift it around. And that's it. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is really too reddy brown. It's not really the colour I'm looking for. It's not the end of the world. It's the beauty of oil paints. I can just put more thinner on the brush, get that. Then if I get a piece of cloth, in this case an old t-shirt, move my oil paints out of the way, I can just rub it off. And this is the beauty of oil paints. If you mess something up, you can take it off. When you're doing washes, it's about 24 hours for a dry. This had 24 hours to dry, by the way, just so that the layer I put on yesterday is now dried, and this layer of thinner I'm putting on isn't going to affect it at all. So that didn't go quite as I planned it, so let's try a different one. What we'll do, we'll try the Starship Filth. Oh, thinner first. Hello. Pay attention, 007. I also don't think I put enough thinner on, because it was clinging a bit. A bit of thinner, some Starship Filth. Ooh, bit blob there, bit big really. And some of the light rust, not the flesh tone. That was a bit. It was a bit too reddy brown. I didn't really want that, so. And we'll give it another brush and see what happens. See, now it's a darker tone of reddy brown that I'm adding, which is more what I'm looking for. And that's the second filter. Literally as simple as that. Thinner, dots of colour, brush it in the direction of travel you want the streaks to go, done. And I'll go off and do the rest of the ship again, like we did yesterday. When we come back for the next bit, we'll actually do the third filter, which is actual streaks. So you'll see you'll see streaks going along, and we'll use some different colours for that. We'll use Starship Filth maybe and something else. So, back in a moment. Right, day 3. The weathering from yesterday has now had a chance to dry overnight, 24 hours. So we're going to get on to the third stage now. I'll just show you what the effect has been. You can see now it's got a much warmer tone. It kind of looks like it's been in one of those pubs for 20 years before they actually did the smoking ban when everything got a bit yellow. I'll bring it close so you can see. Let's have just focusing on that for you. So you can see it's kind of much warmer, much yellower. Now it looks like you'd be thinking that looks totally the wrong colour and it's horrible, but the thing to remember, and I don't know if the colour is showing up on screen at all, the thing to remember is I'm going to be doing some dry brushing later that will pull this back a bit. Not just dirt and grime, but some highlight tones dry brushing as well. So that will pull this back. I'll get a bit closer for you so you can see. A good example to show you how it works is with the goose feathers in the rear part. The goose feathers, oops, they are still mostly white, as you can see. If you look at the actual middle piece, I hope this comes out on camera, the middle piece has been weathered because that's going to be visible and it's not going to be goose feather coloured. So that is actually all kind of browny tone. It's a bit random, a bit messy, but that's exactly what we want because it's weathering. It's not a paint design, it's natural weathering. So that's the colour change. Right, so let's crack on with today. Just focusing for you. Right, today we're going to do streaking. Woo! Now this is one of those things that works perfectly when you most times, but sometimes it can be a bit of a pig. So I can't guarantee this is going to work perfectly straight out of the gate. So let's find out. Right, what we're going to do is, same as before, we're going to apply a quick layer of the thinner. I had to get some more because I ran out yesterday. I've got my 3 oil paints. This time I'm using engine grease, 502 Abteilung engine grease. It's a lovely greasy colour. We're going to use Starship Filth, yes, my favourite one, and also some German Grey highlight, which is a really nice highlight colour if you're doing a ship that's not white. It actually works on white as well sometimes, but this is a great colour if you've got, say, this and I wanted to bring back the highlights but didn't want the highlights to be white, maybe a slight grey colour. This is perfect, great for dry brushing. These paints, these 502 Abteilung, I don't know about normal artist oils, but these are brilliant for dry brushing. If you dry brush with acrylics it can get quite messy, but these things, just there's no grain or anything. Right, so I'll just double check you can see what I'm doing. Here's my palette. Starship Filth, German Grey highlight, engine grease. What the plan is, well, I'll show you. Easier to do it rather than show you. Now I'm not going to use the paint neat. This time I'm going to be making a slight slurry, so I'm just going to get a bit of the thinner, just mix it in. I don't want solid lumpy paint, I want it slightly thinned. So I've got a bit of slurry there. Just mixing the paint into that pile of thinner. Get some kitchen roll. Now, this is the fun bit. I'm going to get my slurry. Well, first I'm going to put some thinner on the surface. So as before, I'll use that one. As before, get some thinner on the brush, get some of it off, and then apply it to the surface. I'm going to get some of this slurry mix, which is just slightly thin paint, and I'm going to do this. You can see this, I hope. Try and get these things straight, it's always a winner. I've actually got the sun in my eyes so I can't see. And when you're doing streaks, try and do them from something, so like from a panel edge. Oops, that's complete rubbish. From a panel edge or from an edge of a wing or something like that. And all we do now is very simply, very soft. This is a bigger brush than before, it's just very soft. Very simply, I hope you can see this, just in the direction of travel. I'm almost not touching this to the surface. Just very gently brushing them along. Some of them will fade away and disappear. Some will all remain. I'm doing it at sort of a flat angle to the surface. I don't want to do it end on, that'll look rubbish. And just do as much as you want. Like with all things, it's a subtle effect. If you get a bit that's messed up and you don't like it, you can just go back and use the flat end of the brush and just straighten it up. That can break up the paint. And I'll just go back and do that again. This just straightens out. Try and make sure you're keeping the brush in the direction of travel. These are probably a bit fat, but they give you the idea. And that, my friends, I'll just get close so you can see. That, my dear friends, is how you do streaks. Now you can obviously use thicker paint or thinner paint. You can use different colours. I'm kind of going to use all three of these colours. I'll just do a thick one so you can see it. Let me just go back again. So I'll just do a thick one so you can see. I'll use less of a slurry. As before, keep a brush for each colour, just saves cross-polluting the colours. Get some thinner. The more thinner you put on, the smoother it will be when you do the blend. However, sometimes you put too much on, it just disappears altogether. So this I'll use a little less of a slurry and more of the actual paint. So if I do these here, one trick, if you want it to go from a panel line, start from before the panel line. Because when you do it, it will inevitably remove the start of the streak, and you'll end up with one that, for all intents and purposes, starts nowhere, in the middle of nowhere. So I've gone from before that panel line there. It's a bit thicker paint this time. Let's give this a try. It's quite relaxing doing this. Again, I'm not really pressing down with the brush. I'm just using the weight of the brush on its own. Okay, they're not quite straight. So I can go back. This one I wanted to start at the panel line, so all I do is simply remove that bit. I hope you can see that. So now it looks like it starts at the little panel line. Here where it's not gone quite straight, I can try and just, this is just a dry brush. If that's not looking quite good, I can get my thinner brush and just perhaps brush a bit thinner on there, and get the dry brush again. Now I know this is a reflective surface while I'm doing it, so I'm hoping you can see all this. And then the dry brush, dry brush, I know what I mean. And go back. Now if you think it's coloured it too much and it's too grey, it's fine. Just take some of it out. Try not to, with all these weathering techniques, the real trick is not to actually think about what you're doing. Don't think about it, just do it. If you just do it, then you get much more natural and random looking effects. You get some happy accidents. And that's the trick. So that is my streaking. Because it's a, if I was doing a massive, enormous starship, I might do a lot of this. Because this is a small craft, relatively, I don't want lots and lots of big dark streaks. What I'll probably do is mix in some of the light German grey, just to break up the brown colour from yesterday a little bit, just to give some lighter streaks. And then the engine grease, again, just to vary the colour of the streaks. I don't want them all the same colour. But that, my friends, is streaking. The thicker you put on the paint, the more bold a line will be. The more of a wash, the more sort of a subtle grade it'll be. What I might do once I've done this bit, let this dry for 24 hours, then I might go back and put some almost neat paint on, do a stripe, and then brush it off. So with streaks, put the stripe down, then just brush it, and make sure your brush is at an angle like that. Don't do it like that. Don't go backwards and forwards. If you want a streak to go that way, do it that way. And if I wanted a streak to start on this panel line, I'd start it, say, from here. Do all that, brush it, and then just get rid of that bit. Right, so I'll go away and do those. Let those dry for 24 hours. Alrighty, well, we'll leave it there for now. I'll get this finished, and when we come back in the next episode, we'll crack on with dry brushing, which is the next step in oil paints. I'll show you how the streaking comes out. As always, go along and check out emodels.co.uk. Absolutely fantastic store. Whatever you need, they'll have. Whatever you don't need it. That's why they don't have it. Massive selection of kits, massive selection of tools, equipment, paints. Get yourself some MIG 502 Abteilung oil paints for your weathering. Trying to do any kind of streaking and stuff with acrylics is a nightmare. Do it with oil paints, much easier. Go along to their Facebook page too, at facebook.com/eModelsLTD. As you know, as I always say, fantastic place. Show off your work, look at the work from other people, keep an eye on what's coming up from eModels, what new releases they've got, and some of the other build videos they've got. Ted's tank build video was fantastic. The other one, I've forgotten it. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Paul's Corsair. Sorry, my brain is not working today. Paul's fantastic Corsair bird cage. That's an amazing kit, and he's doing some fantastic work on that. And of course this. But go along and check it out. And that'll do us. So, thanks again for watching, and until next time, adios amoebas.